I have a quick story I have to tell. So back in middle school, I used to play this app. I believe it was called QuizUp. It was basically a app on the phone that you can play a ton of different games, a ton of different quizzes, and you would go head to head against other people depending on the category. And I remember in like 6th grade, okay, I'm like 11, 12 years old, maybe. I was playing or was looking at all the categories, and I found one category that was Family Guy. It was just all about Family Guy. And there was probably at least a couple, it was if not a couple 100,000, at least a couple million people who would play this game. And no joke, in the Family Guy category, I got ranked number 2 in the world at one point, and I actually took on the person who was ranked number 1. And I lost to him just barely, mainly because it takes not just right answers, but also time. And I was like, 6th grader, I couldn't process anything fast enough. So I lost barely to this guy who, looking at his profile picture, he looked like he was in his mid-30s. More like a typical audience member, not someone like me who shouldn't be watching a show like that. But with all that knowledge, I know all the stupid stuff about Family Guy that no one should ever know because I've seen the show way too much. So what do I do with all this knowledge? Well, I gotta utilize it. So I'm making a tiers list. And the first tier list I'm looking at is called, what is it called? The Ultimate Family Guy Character Tier List Maker. Now, it says it's the ultimate tier list, but it's got like, 20 characters down there, and there's way more than 20 characters. Well, let's just go through these characters and see who ranks where. So first up, we have Adam West. Now, Adam West is a interesting character. I feel like he's one of those guys, he's really funny in the show, but at the same time, he just does really random stuff all the time.
My God, I'm a tomato.
So Adam West in my heart, he is a fun character. I always liked him. I actually saw the original Batman film back in 1962, 1963, somewhere in the 60s where he was Batman, and also the TV show.
I've worked for you a long time and I'm paid less than Robin. Equal pay for men and women.
No time for jokes, Batgirl.
And sadly, he passed away a couple years ago, and his character has been off the show since then, obviously paying tribute to him. But he is a character that was always really enjoyable to see. I'll put him as a B character. Next up, we have Bonnie Swanson. First of all, I actually am looking at this list and I realize there's an E tier. I don't know what E is supposed to mean. I guess it's a little better than F, but it just doesn't exist in any other grading circumstances. So Bonnie's a character. She is the wife of one Joe Swanson, and she used to kind of be like a loving wife to him and was carrying a kid for like 7 seasons until she got to a point where she was done with that, had a kid, and now she really wants Joe to die. She has fantasized so much about what would happen if her husband died. She'll get a D. Really, that's because she's a fine character and she's funny, but again, not as good as some of the other characters on this list, so she's a D. She's an okay character. Okay, I don't mind a lot of characters on the show, actually. But you know what? We gotta spice it up and put people at different levels. Next up, we have Brian Griffin. Brian is a very interesting character as well. Like a lot of these characters, they're all interesting, aren't they? From a show that, a lot of people say they're not very diverse, so that's what it is. However, Brian, at the start of the show, was just the really smart, intellectual dog that was really the one sane person in the house, it seemed like, at least. He was always Peter's sidekick, and he would always help him through. Nowadays, he's just an old dog who's a liberal, who just says stuff he shouldn't say. He's probably racist. It's not really hidden.
What the hell?
Ay, Dios mío.
Oh, great. Course it's one of them.
He's died. He's come back to life. He's gone through a lot. In all honesty, though, Brian is one of the most iconic characters of the show, and when they chose to kill him off, people were so upset about it that it is actually the lowest rated episode in the series when they kill him off in the episode Life of Brian. Like I said, I know my Family Guy knowledge, and this is sad that I know the stuff. But because of all that, Brian gets an A. He's a very good character on the show, and he is one of the most iconic characters, as I've said. The only reason he is not in the S tier is because a lot of people don't like what he's turned into. A lot of people don't like what a lot of these characters are turned into, and I understand that. But Brian's always been a funny character, and it's just been one of the many characters that makes the show enjoyable and unique in a way. And also, like, he's a talking dog. You can't get mad at talking dogs. Next up, we have Bruce, who's, for some reason, his picture is really small compared to everyone else's. Bruce is a fine character. Every time I watch him, though, I'm always like, he's kind of funny, kind of not. Let's put him in the E category. Don't know what it means, but he'll go there. Next up, I can't necessarily make out who it is because they cut off the top half of his head, but I believe that's Carl. Carl is the owner of the gas station, voiced by the late great, well, not late great, he's still around, H. John Benjamin, who has been well known for other things as well. He's also been the voice of Archer and Bob of Bob's Burgers.
Hey, how come you're always here by yourself? You're like a bitch or something?
But he's a solid character. I say he's like Adam West, so let's give him a B. Fine character. Next up, we have Carter Peterschmidt. Now, Carter Peterschmidt is actually, to me, I enjoy episodes with him. I always find him really funny. It's been well known in some of the early episodes, he actually basically tried to kill Peter so he wouldn't marry his daughter, and he actually was going to pay him like $1 million to get rid of him. But Peter said, you know, Lois is worthless and not worth $1 million.
No deal. Lois may be worth $1 million to you, but to me, she's worthless.
He also made the cure for cancer, but then keeps it from the public just so they can make more money. He took Chris to an orphan, I don't know, facility or whatever you'd want to call it. And then they would actually adopt one of them, but then they'd lock the car doors on them so they can't get in their car. So they're like, oh, well, I guess you don't want to get adopted, and then drive off. Yeah, Carter is not a good moral character. He's always entertaining to watch, and it's kind of the same thing with a lot of these characters. He's not a good person. In fact, I would argue he's probably one of the more horrible people in the show. Not horrible, he's probably the worst in the show. He gets an A. Next up, we have Chris Griffin, voiced by the one and only Seth Green. Chris is another one of those characters who, what's funny about him, he's pretty much the same as where he was at the start of the show to where he's at now. He's changed a bit though, because at the start of the show, he actually used to have a passion for being an artist and actually got to go to New York because of that in one episode. But Chris is the son of the family, and Chris is the main character. He's kind of a staple of the show. But with that said, he's going to be a B character. He's not as good as some of the other characters in the main cast. Like, there's actually quite a few I would prefer over him. But he is a fun character. And honestly, I love me some Seth Green. Oh, one of the greatest shows ever, Robot Chicken. If you've never seen Robot Chicken, go watch it. It is, well, I guess, you know, it's probably not for everyone, I should say. So that kind of makes it a good show, right? Next up, we have Cleveland Jr., which is a really weird one because he's probably only in a handful of Family Guy episodes. And he's really mostly from the Cleveland show. The Cleveland show is not good, and if the Cleveland show is not good, he probably is going to get rated pretty low. So I don't have much to say about him. You know what? You get to be an E as well. Next up, we have Cleveland Brown. And Cleveland's had good episodes here and there. I feel like I've enjoyed Cleveland more in later episodes more than his early episodes. I used to like what he was, you know, and he's still an iconic character on the show, but he's yeah, you know, couldn't even get his own show, so he can't be that good. He gets a C. Next up, we have Consuela. She is the one made in the show, and I'll be honest, like, the joke with her is kind of funny. She's like, no. You know what? We'll give her an E. No one's an F yet, because there's none of these characters I truly hate, okay? I'm being generous. Then again, I'm putting them in the E category, whatever the hell that means. Next up, we have Death. Now, Death has been in only a handful of episodes as well. He's been an enjoyable character. He's not as great as some of the other ones, but the reason I will rank him a little bit higher is because in the original episodes, I don't remember if it was a couple, he was voiced by the one and only Norm Macdonald, a legend. He gets to be a C in my book. Next up, we have Dr. Hartman, who they actually make a joke sounds just like Carter Peterschmidt.
You know, Peter says we sound alike. Really? I don't hear it. Actually, I think I do hear it now. Really?
But I actually like Dr. Hartman a lot, and he's obviously not a good doctor, but he's funny. So you know what, Dr. Hartman, you get to be a B as well. Next up, we have the Chicken Man. Oh, does he have a name? He probably does. Oh, number 2 in the world. Yeah, I don't even know the name of the chicken. The chicken episodes are fun, but at the same time, they're annoying because you're watching a plot, which, you know, I watch Family Guy for the plot, not for the jokes. I'm immersed in the storytelling they got going on. He is an E for me. Next up, we have the evil monkey, who turned out to not be evil and was always trying to talk to Chris, but, you know, did the angry face and blah, blah, blah. He was a fine character, and it was interesting to see that he's actually not evil. He was just, you know, really stressed dealing with, you know, being cheated on by his monkey wife with another monkey. That sounds really weird. You get to be a D. Next up, Cleveland Quagmire. Wait, Cleveland Quagmire? What the hell am I saying? Quagmire, a iconic character. Probably one of the most iconic characters from the show. I would say he is definitely, if not number 1, the second most iconic character of the show. If you ever say the word Quagmire now, you're not talking about some like weird crack in the ground or whatever. You are talking about this guy right here. He gets to be an S tier because of that. Next up, we have the greased up deaf guy, who was only in a handful of episodes, just shows up greased up and deaf. And then we actually get to know his origin story when Brian and Stewie, you know, screw up the timeline and everything starts moving backwards. You know what? Let's do it. You get to be an F. He could be an E tier, but I'm kind of fed up because I don't even know what the E tier means. Next up, we have Jesse the dog, which is Herbert's old man dog. He's Brian if Brian couldn't talk, and if Brian just, you know, didn't have too much. But he's a dog, right? You know what that means? E tier. Joe Swanson. But I love me some Joe Swanson. A tier. Next up, we have Herbert. He's funny, and I think I like a lot of his stuff. It's just, compared to other characters, you know, he doesn't really carry the show. He's just kind of a supporting guy. So you know what you get for that? You get the D. Lois Griffin. The one gal who grew up in richness, decided to marry one of the dumbest people on the planet. She is the subject of a lot of stuff in the show, though. They always talk about how old she is, and then she says she's not old, but then she also talks about being on the Facebook and being just an old person. But I like me some Lois. Who doesn't like some Lois, right? Another iconic character on the show. She's had a lot of stuff, and she's been one of the main people as well, so, you know, she's a solid character. You know what she gets for that? She gets to be an A. Next up, we have Meg Griffin. Now, Meg is an interesting character because everyone in the show hates her and literally just picks on her. In fact, there was one episode where Peter just shoots her because she said hi to him.
Hi, Dad.
I don't know what to make of Meg as a character, though, because if you actually watch the show and dissect all the characters, I talked about the evolution of how they changed into horrible people. If you actually watch the early episodes, Meg was kind of a... she wasn't really a grateful daughter at all. I know that sounds horrible to say. In the early episodes, though, she was mostly the daughter who took advantage of a lot of things in her family. She actually used Stewie and pretended to be a teen mom, which got Stewie taken away by child services, and she did it just for a purse. But you know what, though? Meg, you get to be a C. If I was like the family, you would be an F, but yeah, she's not that bad. Mort Goldman, he's the one fun character. I'm just kidding. Overall, he's had a couple episodes where he's the main point or the main focus of the story. You know, he's a fine character. He's a C. Next up, we have Ollie Williams. Now, everyone loves me some Ollie Williams.
Ollie?
It's raining sideways!
Sounds rough, Ollie. Do you have an umbrella?
Had one!
Where is it?
Inside out 2 miles away!
Ollie Williams is a B. Peter Griffin. Another classic character, probably one of the most iconic as well from the show. Peter's also S tier. Next up, we have Sheamus. Sheamus was just the weird side character who would show up here and there. He's had a couple stories when he's been the main person, but overall, he's just kind of meh. He gets to be the D. Stewie Griffin, S tier. I don't think there's really much to say. He is arguably the most iconic character from the show, and everybody who watches the show loves to watch some Stewie Griffin. And then this one, they cut off the head, but I can tell that is some Tom Tucker. Tom Tucker, another fun character on the show, like him a lot, really quality, but you know, he's kind of a, you know, he's a newsman, so he, yeah. This list is, I just spent about half an hour putting this list together. So that is a Family Guy tiers list. I am a man who ranked number 2 in the world in a Family Guy quiz show, so I definitely know what I'm talking about. Yes, my life is sad. Yes, I spent time doing this. Yes, I could have done something more productive with my life, but why do that? That is the end of the video. Leave a comment who your favorite Family Guy character is, and if you've never seen the show or hate it, you can say that as well. But if you like this, hey, subscribe, like, do whatever you want. You know, maybe I'll make more stuff like this. Maybe not. These are actually kind of easy videos, so I can put them out easier. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I'll see y'all later.